wonderful. Look who is here, having his afternoon lunch. Having spoken about what the Inyala had for lunch, while Mr. Tingana is having something else, a little bit more meat-based, I imagine. I have absolutely no idea what it is that he has found, but he has definitely managed to find something. Hello, lovely boy. Now, this is exactly where he was left this morning by the Arathusa guides, which means he's probably been lying up here, which also means that whatever he managed to catch stumbled into him rather than him actively hunting it. And it's also most likely something small, given the fact that he has now finished it all off. Hello, beautiful boy. So exciting stuff. Karula reported a treehouse dam, Tingana resting in the shade of a tambuti thicket, and Wiem and myself perched precariously on the side of a termite mound. Not the easiest spot to get into. Good afternoon, by the way. My name is Jamie, and I have Wiem on camera with me. And we've managed to relocate him. We actually followed the sound of his crunching. I'm going to try and just go forward ever so slightly. Let's see if he will let me. Oh, a lovely start for this afternoon, given that this morning... Hello, tree. Is that going to be in your way, Wiem? No? There we go. Given that... Oh, there we go. Viem's now wearing it on his head. This morning we spent the morning in a rather fruitless search for the Inkahumas. They led us in circles. And I tracked a mating leopard pair, Mvula and his lovely lady friend, off the property and onto Buffelshoek. But we started off, or Brent started off the morning with Tingana walking ahead of him. This morning he was sawing away. What have you got there? My first thought was that he'd caught something like a scrub hare, but that bone is too long. That bone, no, that definitely wasn't. Perhaps something like a steenbok or a duiker, which for a leopard of Tingana's size would most likely be an afternoon snack. And he's finished it all off completely. I suppose works up quite an appetite wandering through one's territorial area, rasping away in that sawing sound that leopards do. He is absolutely massive. I always feel that every time I see Tingana, there's a little part of me that still is surprised at how huge his neck is. And I think this morning he actually scared Mvula off Djuma with all of his rasping calls. He was announcing that he is the dominant one in that area. And Mvula, who looked making a beeline for Djuma, and actually went on to Djuma for a little bit, then, judging by his tracks, scampered off at quite a rapid pace into Buffelshoek next to Tambuti Dam. And I'm hoping that this afternoon they will decide to come back, because we'll have limited time to spend with Tingana in this particular spot. We are on Arathusa, and there'll be lots of vehicles that will want to come and see him. And because of the position that he's in, it's probably only going to fit in 1 or 2 vehicles. Oh, flies. Of course, Tingana is the dominant male leopard that we see most often around these parts, but there is another a little bit further to the west. Andrew, I'm afraid I haven't heard any news about the Anderson male recently. The Anderson male, I mean, he's starting to sort of take on these mythical proportions in terms of stories from the Sabi Sands. He's rumored to be the biggest male leopard that at least the northern Sabi Sands has ever seen. But apparently some people say he's actually not that much bigger than Tingana, but he's probably got about 10 kilograms on him. And of course with male leopards it's not just about size, it's a little bit about attitude as well. But by all accounts, the Anderson male is a beast of a male leopard, absolutely enormous. And the female that he mated with and his supposed daughter Tiani, I must say, if all accounts are true about Anderson male, then she is certainly taking what's the word? I've gone blank. where you share genetic qualities with some, taking after, there we go, almost, taking after her supposed father in terms of some of the things she has accomplished before even being fully grown. The stories say she killed an adult impala at the age of 9 to 10 months old. Others say she killed a Deka when she was only just a couple of months old. Oh, Tingana's up. And he perhaps is reveling in his good fortune that some poor steenbok or Deka decided to come wandering in to where he is. Oh, wonderful. Right in front of the vehicle. Ah, a little bit of a urine spray, a territorial mark, and off he goes. What are your plans now, boy? My thoughts would be he's going to go and find a nice shady spot to lie down in. Probably right there. Yes, right there. And down he goes. Okay. Let's try and get around to try and catch up with him. Yes, Ashley, absolutely. Very, very good point. He could well have been eating a warthog. Particularly, and I'm not going to make him show you because he's currently got a branch attached to the top of his camera. Particularly since we're sitting right next to a termite mound that may well once have been the hiding place of a warthog that has since been caught by Tingana. Now, Tingana's got a little bit of a reputation. Oops, no, that's forwards. We need to go backwards. He's got a little bit of a reputation as very, very good, very capable of catching and going into animals' burrows and catching them from there. I'm just trying to work out how I got myself into this mess so that I can get myself out of it. I think I went this way. Oh, everybody hold on, watch out for him. There's a serious spike thorn that wants to get you. Very much wants to get you. There we go. Oh, no, there we don't go. Got an antenna. Almost. Phew. Right, what was I talking about? Oh yes, Tingana. He definitely has a reputation for being an aardvark and warthog killer, and we've seen him on 2 separate occasions climb into warthog burrows and catch the warthogs in there. Once was live on one of our television specials with Peter Pretorius. The other was when James was on a walk on tracking team, and he managed to spot him there. So he's definitely earned that reputation. And leopards do specialize in that sort of thing. They have specialities. Some of them are natural tunnel raiders. Hope everybody's ducking. Here we go. Perfect. Aren't you beautiful? Licking away all the remains of his whatever it was kill. Very good point. I didn't think of warthog, and it actually should have been the first thing that crossed my mind. He's found himself a patch of shade. I have to say this is an extremely warm day. Spring is definitely in the air. And Monique in London is absolutely right. It does look like he's still got a little bit of a limp. Tingana's had this limp on and off almost since the entire time I've known him, but it got particularly bad when he was mating with a female leopard called Tundi, who's Karula's daughter, Shadow's sister. Probably, I don't know, gosh, it must have been 6 months ago or something, somewhere around there. And from then, he's always had it, and it gets better and it gets worse and better and worse. We don't know exactly what caused it. He did seem to have quite a nasty dew claw injury on that leg. But it comes and goes, and dominant male leopards often have a limp. or some kind of injury to them, just from the general wear and tear of their everyday life, whether it's from hunting something or patrolling their territory and getting into a scrap with another leopard. And leopard fights are usually fast and furious and then over, just as quickly as they started. Now, we don't know what caused Tingana's injury. We know that we noticed it particularly badly after he was mating with Tundi. But it's still not something that seems to be hampering him in any major fashion. The last time I saw Tingana properly was at Red Dam, and that was actually the worst condition I feel as though I've seen him in. He was very thin for Tingana. Tingana's always been muscular, and I wouldn't call him chubby by any stretch of the imagination, but he's always been a very well-built leopard. And that particular day he looked hungry and very much smaller than I'd ever seen him looking, and his limp was very pronounced. But it seems to be a little bit better. I think it's just going to come and go. And it's probably the winter cold exacerbated it. You know, it kind of got stiff and sore as he moved throughout an area. But it does seem to be very much improved. Oh, what a lovely message from Fee Duffy, who is from South Africa originally, but has since left the country and is now feeling terribly homesick for the African bush. Well, Fee, this might be the next best thing. The only way we can really comfort you is to offer these live safari experiences for you every day, twice a day. And of course, no drive is ever the same. But Fee, I completely understand. I think for me, when I lived in the UK, the longing for the African bush had me fleeing to all of the dam cameras almost constantly. I used to sit and study with my headphones on and listen to just the sounds of the African bush, even if I wasn't watching the dam camera the whole time. That, of course, was when I had internet that was capable of doing such things. But that's how I used to cope with my longing, my yearning for the African bush. But I really, really do understand completely. Doesn't he just look so happy with himself? He's got his shady spot, he's got a full belly. The flies are irritating him a little bit. But he's got a nice, comfortable place to lie down. And Andrew would like to know why other leopard subspecies do not possess the massive necks that our leopards do. And Andrew, the only thing I can suggest is competition. So the male leopard, because we know that their dewlap and their massive necks are an adaptation for being able to fight off other males and hoist kills into trees. Okay. Well, that was a surprise. Middle of the day, full belly, territorial rasping call. How awesome is that? What are you calling for, boy? What are you smelling? I have to tell you, leopards are so much fun, and Tingana particularly, because they do such unexpected things. I mean, it's 30 degrees today, this afternoon. It's boiling hot. I'm sweating. And there he is rasping in the middle of the day. Cats are meant to be fast asleep in the shade. And that's the exact opposite of what he's done. He's hunted. And actually, you know what, sorry. I think he did get a warthog. I think that's exactly what he got. Oh, and he's up. Sorry. He's up again. Sorry, Andrew. We'll get back to your question in a moment. And he's down again. I was going to say, it can't possibly be that unpredictable. I spoke about it this morning, the fact that I once saw Tingana on a 40-degree day, settled in the shade of a tree, and then he got up and walked far that afternoon. It was a day that we had to start the sunset safari late, because it was too hot. So, Andrew, my guess would be competition. We've got some of the highest leopard concentrations, at least in South Africa, in this particular area. So that in turn will mean that the leopards with the biggest necks, in terms of protecting their vital parts of their necks, their spine, and just being generally stronger than other males, they'll be the ones that pass on their genetics. Whereas with something like Cape leopards, for example, the competition is, oh goodness, this is now much trickier. The competition is much reduced. The flies are irritating him. You can see the irritation written all over his face. Now in the Cape leopard, which is slowly starting to be a recognized subspecies, first of all, there's a lot of literature to suggest that they are in fact a little bit inbred, which will immediately start to reduce their physical features. And secondly, there's not nearly as many. It's not nearly as high a concentration. Oh, catch them! Get them! Get those irritating flies. It sort of reminds me of Connor at lunchtime. Yeah, Connor doesn't snap at the flies, just to clarify. But he does try and catch them. And Steph. Actually, even more like Steph. I do have to share this with you, just talking of flies and Connor. Connor caught a fly in his hand, like something out of the Karate Kid. Not quite chopsticks, but with his hand, and then promptly threw it at Kirsty and nearly landed in her mouth. You gotta be tough out here. You never know when attack is around the next corner. Kirsty handled it very well. Not the fly, that is, the situation. Anyway, moving on. That's why, I mean, the only reason I would say that the size difference is a big deal in this area is competition. It's why the northern Sabi sand leopard in general are smaller than the southern Sabi sand leopard, because the territory here is not as coveted as it is further south. And of course, the leopards around rivers with huge vegetation, big trees. Huge vegetation, I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense. Enormous trees, big tambuertes, fig trees, jackalberries, and a high prey concentration will mean that competition is fiercer than it is here. Which is why territories for leopards are bigger here, and they're smaller in size. I mean, some of the females that I saw in the Kruger National Park next to the Letaba and the Olifants River were absolutely enormous. They were basically double Karula's size. Roger, he wants to know whether or not the male lions ever run the risk of running into a lion or attracting the attention of a lion when they're sawing at night. All leopards do, whether they're female or male. The difference is that leopards, once they reach a certain age, unless they are very distracted by something, the chances of them being caught and killed by a lion are infinitesimal. They are so small, because they are faster than lions, and they are more agile than lions, and they'll be able to launch themselves up into trees. And although we've got this predator hierarchy and the desire of predators to remove competition, they actually don't, unless it's a male lion every now and again, they generally don't set out to hunt and catch each other on a regular basis. That's why we see leopards lying with hyenas. You might even see leopards and lions in the same sighting, as long as the leopard feels that it's got enough distance to be safe and secure. But for the most part, the senses and the reflexes of the leopards protect them, and the advantages of that calling outweigh the risks. I must tell you something on the subject of the competition. One of our guiding friends tells me that he nearly saw one of the two cheetah brothers kill one of the Styx cubs. The Styx cubs are often left on their own as the females go off to hunt, and apparently this male cheetah was several feet away from it, really clearly thinking about hunting and grabbing this little cub, before the second cheetah obviously caught whiff of the mother and turned around and raced away, taking his brother with him. It just goes to show that even cheetah, bottom of the predator hierarchy, bottom of the food chain almost in that sense, will go out of their way to reduce the competition. And for them, an adult lion is their biggest threat, so removing it while it's still young and relatively defenseless kind of makes sense. We are, of course, thrilled to hear that that little cub has made it safely out of harm's way. Tingana, if it had been Tingana that had stumbled upon those Styx cubs, things might have been a very different story. And speaking of our line, and oh, hold on. What's happening? Why are you calling? We're going to sit here and try and figure out exactly what's happening with Tingana and why it is that he's calling in the middle of the day, which is not unheard of, but it is relatively unusual. And while we try and puzzle that one out and I listen for the calls of a responding leopard, let's jump on the back with James, who is searching for another one of our big cats.
Now, we did find her, everybody. We found the lioness that Brian and I saw yesterday, that you all found on the Djuma Dam cam for us. And if you look over there, there's a jackalberry tree that we could see from the other side, but we just